Want to know a secret? Grocery store and big box flowers, when they come in, are just as fresh as the flowers from a florist. But that's where the problem comes in. Once they get to the big box or to the grocery store, the way we treat flowers are totally different. There's three big differences between a florist's flowers and those that you get from, let's say, a big box store. The first thing is, florists are obsessive with cleanliness, obsessive with bacteria. The biggest problem we have is that, let's say with a bundle of flowers, you have all the leaves, and that's where the bacteria is sitting on. So we automatically strip off the leaves. Everybody does that. But what about where the flowers are sitting? What about the pails? I just picked up this pail from a grocery store. And I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's not very clean. Florists are obsessive. Every time we use a pail that holds flowers, we use it only once. And after that, we go through a little bit of a procedure. And it's our old favorite, bleach. Cap full of bleach, the pail's half full of water, in it goes. And the inside joke at a flower shop is we spend 40 years with our heads in a pail of bleach. We've got our trusty brush, in we go, and every square inch of this pail is scrubbed and cleaned to make sure there's no residual bacteria sitting around. Same thing with the outside. We do the rims as well, just to make sure the bacteria is gone. Once we're done bleaching, we rinse them. First of all, we rinse it with clear water. Turn the pails upside down, and if you're ever in a flower shop, let's say at Christmas or Valentine's or Mother's Day, you're going to see pyramids of buckets sitting in the back that are drying because we have to let them air dry in order for all the bacteria to disappear, and then they can be reused. Same thing holds for the tools of the trade. Our shears, every single day, in they go, because of course we're cutting the flowers, and the shears are where all the bacteria is sitting. So we take our shears, I've got a couple up here, dip them in a pail of bleach water, shake them around a bit, take a towel, dry them off, and we do it every single day to make sure there's no bacterial buildup on our shears. Our workbenches, at the end of every day, same scrub brush, same bleach water. In we go and we scrub the surfaces. We don't want any bacteria to be around the flowers because that destroys the life of them. That's one thing that the florist does. The second thing, and you've seen a video on this previously, is something called the cold chain. Flowers in North America, 85% of them come in from South America, primarily Colombia and Ecuador. They're flown overnight, where it's the coolest, into Miami. They clear customs and they go into refrigerated warehouses. Those warehouses are between 2 and 5 degrees Celsius, about 34 to 39 degrees Fahrenheit. They're kept cool, they're kept dark, and they stay there about 12 to 14 hours until they're loaded on something called reefer trucks. Reefer trucks are in the same conditions. Very cold, or cool, not cold, not freezing, and very high humidity, around 87%. Now, those reefer trucks take off from Miami with 2 drivers, and those drivers truck the flowers in 12-hour shifts, usually taking anywhere from 2 to 3 days to get to Canada. Once we get them in, they end up in a wholesaler's warehouse again for a short period of time, and we pick them up from there. Now, what happens in a big box or in a grocery store, we get the nice, cool, dormant flowers. They come into the shop. The florist puts them in the cooler. Same conditions. It's called the cold chain. It's a chain that all the links have to match right to the very end until you get them to your own business or home or office or even to a funeral home or a hospital. But until that point in time, the cold chain's followed religiously. Now, what happens when the chain breaks is, let's say, at the big box of the grocery store where the flowers are displayed at room temperature. An hour in a cooler is like 5 hours outside of the cooler. You'll often see discount flowers being sold next to nothing after they've been out for 2 or 3 days because those flowers are on their last legs. If you can get a flower from a big box or a grocery store right away before it has a chance to sit around for too long, they're really not that bad, and certainly the price is right. You're getting a good deal price-wise, but you've got to get to them quickly. If you're buying discount or older flowers, ones that have been there for even a day, they're not going to last you as long once you get them home. Now the third thing, the biggest problem I have, and especially doing a lot of roses as we do, is when you buy, let's say, roses, I'll use it for example, Costco. Get a great deal on 24 roses. You pick them up, you finish your shopping, you maybe go to the hardware store, you stop for a burger. By the time you get the roses home, 3 or 4 hours have passed. Not good enough. A rose is really, really thirsty. When you get your roses home, even from a florist, you'll notice in the first 24 hours at room temperature, half the water in the vase is evaporated up the stems of the flowers. If you keep them outside of water for 3-4 hours while you're doing the rest of your shopping, what happens is the rose is virtually dead by the time you actually get them even home. A good florist, every single time, will use something called water tubes. And I can remember a Valentine's Day, almost 20 years ago now. My father-in-law sitting on the back steps of the shop with a bunch of these water tubes, filling them up and capping them. Because on the bottom of every single rose, we put water tubes on them. And why do we do that? Because regardless of what you're going to be doing for the next 2, 3, 8 hours, we know, and we're confident, that when those roses leave the shop, they're in the best possible shape and have a water source for almost a day before you can get them home and into your own vase. It's just an added service because we want your flowers to last the longest. If you're buying them out of a bucket at a grocery store or a Costco, you're not getting that kind of service. You're not getting the longevity out of your flowers that you should. Now, I can remember doing probably 2,000 of these at one time with my father-in-law and I, who were in our 70s, at Valentine's Day because we forgot to do the prep work ahead of time. So we're putting these on, and I mean, it was hour and a half, 2 hours of doing nothing but filling up water tubes. Finally, he turns to me and he says, "Frank, this is why we both have commerce degrees." Yeah, okay. I mean, it's part of business. It's part of the stuff that maybe we don't like to do as much as actual flower design, but it's essential for proper business and to run a proper flower shop. We've been doing it for years. Thanks for listening today. Frank Simon, Simon Says Roses. Bye now. I think I hit all my points.